The text message illuminated Sophia Taylor's phone at exactly 7:06 p.m. on a rainy Tuesday evening, the kind of moment that would later be etched permanently in her memory as the beginning of everything that followed. I can't believe I let you talk me into this dinner. The client is insufferable, and I'm counting down the minutes until I can leave. Save me. Sophia stared at the message, confusion creasing her brow. She didn't recall making dinner plans with anyone, let alone discussing clients. She checked the number unfamiliar, though only a single digit off from her best friend Mia's. A wrong number, obviously. She should ignore it, but something about the desperation in the message tugged at her. After a moment's hesitation, her fingers moved across the screen. I think you have the wrong number, but whoever they are, fake an emergency call, works every time. She set her phone down and returned to organizing her cramped apartment. At 28, Sophia was struggling to make ends meet as a children's book illustrator. Her coffee table was littered with sketches and watercolors for her latest project, a story about a lonely rabbit finding friendship. The irony wasn't lost on her. Her own social life had dwindled considerably after her last relationship ended 8 months ago. Her phone buzzed again. Wrong number. Damn, I'm sorry, though that's solid advice, I might use it. She smiled, typing back. No problem, hope you escape soon. Sophia expected that to be the end of it, a brief, anonymous exchange quickly forgotten. She was wrong. I did it, faked an emergency call. Now hiding in my car wondering when adults get to stop pretending to like people for business reasons. Sophia laughed out loud, surprising herself. She hesitated before replying, wondering if continuing the conversation crossed some unspoken boundary of modern communication. Curiosity won. Congratulations on your daring escape. What line of work requires such theatrical skills? The response came quickly. Real estate development. Today, it was convincing a property owner that my vision for their land would benefit the community, not just my bottom line. The truth is, it would do both. I'm William, by the way, Sophia, children's book illustrator. My theatrical skills are limited to making animal characters look convincingly happy about learning life lessons. She didn't expect the conversation to continue. Most people didn't find her job interesting enough to prompt follow-up questions, but William wasn't most people. That sounds infinitely more fulfilling than what I do. Do you enjoy it? For the next hour, Sophia found herself engaged in conversation with this stranger. William asked thoughtful questions about her art, her creative process, and her favorite children's books growing up. She found herself sharing details she rarely disclosed to people she just met, her struggle to make a living as an artist, her dreams of writing her own books someday, her love of rainy nights like this one. I should probably let you go, she finally typed, realizing how late it had gotten. Thanks for the unexpected conversation. Good luck with your insufferable clients. This was the highlight of my otherwise tedious day. Would it be completely inappropriate if I texted you again sometime? Sophia stared at the message. The sensible answer was yes, it would be inappropriate. She knew nothing about this man beyond his first name and profession, and yet, I guess that depends on how insufferable your next client is, she replied. In that case, I'll be texting you very soon. William Wells set his phone down and leaned back in the leather seat of his Aston Martin, a smile playing on his lips. At 34, he'd grown accustomed to people wanting things from him: his money, his influence, his connections. His net worth had recently crossed the $300 million mark, largely due to his talent for transforming neglected properties into thriving community spaces. Tonight's dinner had been with a notoriously difficult landowner whose property was essential for his latest project, a mixed-use development that would include affordable housing units, something William was passionate about despite the reduced profits. The conversation with Sophia had been refreshingly genuine. No agenda, no flattery, no subtle probing about his wealth or status. Just easy banter with a woman who made animal characters look convincingly happy about learning life lessons. He started his car, thinking he'd like to see her illustrations someday. Their text conversations continued over the next few weeks, gradually becoming part of their daily routines. William learned that Sophia lived in the same city as him, Boston, that she had a younger brother studying abroad, parents who lived in Connecticut, and a small circle of loyal friends. She learned that William had built his real estate development company from scratch, that he was an only child, and that his parents had passed away when he was in college, leaving him to navigate adulthood alone. What Sophia didn't know was that real estate development meant William was the founder and CEO of Wells Community Developments, one of the largest privately owned real estate companies in New England. His vision for properties had transformed entire neighborhoods and earned him features in Business Insider and Forbes. When he texted her from boring meetings, those meetings were often with mayors or senators or international investors. William kept these details vague intentionally. The more they talked, the more he treasured the way Sophia treated him like a normal person with normal problems, not a powerful millionaire whose attention might be valuable. 3 weeks into their strange friendship, William was preparing for a crucial presentation when his phone lit up with a text from Sophia. "I just got the worst review from a client. The foxes look too sneaky. They're foxes. That's how they look." William chuckled, picturing Sophia's indignation. "Send me a picture of these allegedly devious foxes." A minute later, his phone displayed a beautifully rendered watercolor illustration of 2 foxes in winter coats, reading a map by a forest path. They looked clever and bright-eyed, foxes being foxes but hardly sinister. "These are incredible," he typed, genuinely impressed. "Your client is clearly Philistine who doesn't appreciate art." "Thank you, that's exactly what I said, well, in my head. Out loud I said I'll make some adjustments while dying inside." William studied the illustration again. "Have you thought about showcasing your work somewhere? These are really good, Sophia." There was a pause before her response. "Gallery space is expensive, and I'm not exactly swimming in disposable income right now. Maybe someday." William's fingers hovered over his phone. He could offer to help. He could mention that he owned a building with a perfect gallery space on the ground floor. But he knew how that might sound, like he was flaunting his wealth, or worse, trying to buy her attention. "I understand, but when someday comes, I'd love to see your work in person." Another pause. "If I didn't know better, William, I'd think you were angling for a face-to-face meeting." William smiled. "Would that be so terrible? We do live in the same city." "It would mean giving up our mysterious text-only relationship. Are you sure you want to risk discovering I have a weird laugh or terrible fashion sense?" "I'm willing to take that risk if you are. Coffee this weekend." The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before her answer came through. "Okay, Saturday at 2, there's a little place called Bean there, done that on Newbury Street." William knew the cafe. It was a cozy, unpretentious spot, nothing like the upscale restaurants where he usually took business associates. He liked that she'd chosen somewhere casual. It's a date, or not a date, a meeting of text friends, whatever feels less pressure-filled. A friendly non-date between text acquaintances. "See you Saturday, William." Saturday arrived with crisp autumn weather and golden sunlight. Sophia arrived at Bean there, done that 15 minutes early, nervousness making her restless. She'd changed outfits 4 times before settling on dark jeans, ankle boots, and a soft blue sweater that Mia always said brought out her eyes. Her chestnut hair fell in gentle waves to her shoulders, and she'd applied minimal makeup, just enough to feel put together without looking like she was trying too hard. She secured a corner table and ordered a chai latte, checking her watch compulsively. What if meeting in person ruined their easy rapport? What if she was disappointed by the real William? What if he was disappointed by the real Sophia? At precisely 2 o'clock, the cafe door opened, and Sophia felt her breath catch. The man who entered was not at all what she'd expected. William was tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair cut short and neat, strong features, and the most intense blue eyes she'd ever seen. He wore a simple gray Henley and dark jeans that somehow managed to look elegant. He carried himself with quiet confidence, scanning the cafe until his gaze landed on her. Recognition flashed in his eyes, followed by a warm smile that transformed his serious expression. As he approached, Sophia noticed women at nearby tables glancing appreciatively in his direction. She couldn't blame them. William was undeniably handsome in a classic, unshowy way. "Sophia?" he asked, his voice deeper than she'd imagined. "William," she confirmed, standing awkwardly. "It's nice to finally meet you in person." They hesitated in that peculiar moment of uncertainty. Shake hands. Hug, nod politely. Before William leaned in for a brief, friendly hug that sent an unexpected flutter through Sophia's chest. "I'll grab a coffee and be right back," he said. Sophia watched as he approached the counter. There was something about William that commanded attention without demanding it, a natural presence that made the baristas straighten slightly as he ordered. When he returned with his black coffee, Sophia had composed herself. "So," she said, "is it strange to finally meet the person behind the texts?" "Strange in a good way," William replied, studying her face with interest. "You look exactly like someone who would create those Fox illustrations." "I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not," she laughed. "Definitely a compliment. Creative, thoughtful, expressive eyes." He stopped himself, looking slightly embarrassed. "Sorry, that sounded less awkward in my head." Sophia felt her cheeks warm. "No, it's thank you. You're not what I expected either." "What did you expect?" "I don't know." "Someone more," she gestured vaguely. "Harried, real estate developers in my imagination wear perpetually rumpled suits and talk very fast." William laughed, a genuine sound that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "I do own suits, and I can talk fast when necessary, but I try to avoid both when possible." Their conversation flowed easily from there, jumping from topic to topic, just as their texts had. William asked thoughtful questions about her current projects. Sophia found herself explaining her creative process, the struggle to balance artistic integrity with client demands, and her dream of illustrating a book that would become a childhood favorite for generations of readers. "My mom used to read me The Velveteen Rabbit over and over," she confessed. "I wore out the pages. That's the kind of book I want to create someday, something worn out from love." William's expression softened. "I can see you doing that, creating something that matters." "What about you?" Sophia asked. "Did you always want to be in real estate?" A shadow crossed William's face. "Not exactly. I studied architecture in college. I loved designing spaces that could change how people lived, worked, interacted. After my parents died, I inherited some money and a small property. I renovated it, sold it for a profit, and realized I could combine business with my interest in transforming spaces." "I'm sorry about your parents," Sophia said softly. "Thank you. It was a long time ago, but," he shrugged, "you never really get over losing them both so young." The vulnerability in his voice touched something in Sophia. She reached across the table impulsively, squeezing his hand. William looked surprised, then turned his hand to hold hers briefly before they both pulled away, suddenly aware of the intimacy of the gesture. Their coffee stretched into nearly 3 hours of conversation. They discovered shared tastes in books and music, similar political views, and a mutual appreciation for bad puns. By the time they stepped outside the cafe, the afternoon light was fading. "This was nice," Sophia said, suddenly shy again. "Much better than I expected from a wrong number situation." "Would it be too forward to suggest we do it again?" William asked. "Maybe dinner next time." Sophia looked up at him, at the hopeful expression in those blue eyes, and nodded. "I'd like that." "Great," William smiled, looking genuinely pleased. "I'll text you." He leaned down and kissed her cheek gently before stepping back. "It was wonderful to meet you, Sophia Taylor." She watched him walk away, feeling something shift inside her, a loosening of the walls she'd built after her last relationship ended badly. There was something about William, something solid and genuine beneath his reserved exterior, that made her want to trust him. What she didn't see was William turning back to watch her walk in the opposite direction, a similar realization dawning in his eyes. Their first proper date was at a small Italian restaurant tucked away on a side street. William arrived early, having chosen the location carefully. Excellent food but unpretentious atmosphere, nothing that would signal his wealth or status. He'd been deliberately vague about his company in their conversations, saying only that he developed community-focused properties. It wasn't exactly a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Wells Community Developments had projects across 5 states, employed over 200 people, and had been featured in multiple business publications. William's personal fortune exceeded what most people could imagine earning in a lifetime. He told himself he was waiting for the right moment to explain, but the truth was, he was afraid. Afraid the knowledge would change how Sophia saw him, afraid it would create a barrier between them just as they were starting to connect. Sophia arrived wearing a simple black dress that made William momentarily forget his concerns. Her face lit up when she saw him, and he felt an unfamiliar tightness in his chest. "This place is beautiful," she said as they were seated at a corner table with flickering candles. "How did you find it?" "I have a knack for finding overlooked spaces with potential," William replied, which was true enough. The evening passed in a haze of good food, better conversation, and a growing awareness between them that this was quickly becoming more than friendship. When William's hand brushed hers reaching for the wine, the contact sent electricity up his arm. When Sophia laughed at his stories, he found himself wanting to make her laugh again and again. After dinner, they walked along the waterfront, the city lights reflecting on the dark harbor. "Tell me something you've never told anyone else," Sophia said suddenly. William considered carefully. "Sometimes I wonder if what I'm building will last, if it matters. Your buildings, more than that, the legacy, the impact," he hesitated. "My parents left me before I really understood what they wanted for me, for the world. I'm always trying to guess what would make them proud." Sophia's expression was thoughtful in the dim light. "I think creating spaces where people can live well, that's something to be proud of. What about you?" William asked. "Something you've never told anyone. I'm afraid I'll never be good enough," she admitted quietly. "That I'll always be drawing other people's stories instead of telling my own." William stopped walking, turning to face her. "Your illustrations tell stories all on their own, Sophia." "I saw that with the foxes." "That's different from it's not," he insisted gently. "You're already telling your stories, maybe you just need to believe in them more." They stood facing each other, the night air cool around them, something unspoken passing between them. William leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. Their lips met in a kiss that started tentatively but quickly deepened, his hand coming up to cup her cheek as her fingers gripped the front of his jacket. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, William knew he was in trouble. This wasn't just attraction. This was something deeper, something that made him want to be honest with her about everything. "Can I see you tomorrow?" he asked. Sophia nodded, her eyes shining. "I'd like that." The following weeks brought a flurry of dates, walks through the public garden, a pottery class where they both failed spectacularly at creating anything functional, late-night conversations over takeout at Sophia's apartment. William found himself falling in love with her creativity, her kindness, the way she saw beauty in ordinary moments. Sophia was drawn to his thoughtfulness, his quiet strength, and the glimpses of vulnerability he showed only to her. But William's secret loomed between them, growing more difficult to explain with each passing day. He avoided taking her to his penthouse apartment, made excuses when business associates called while they were together, and changed the subject whenever the conversation veered toward his company's specifics. The breaking point came unexpectedly. They were having dinner at Sophia's apartment when his phone rang with a call. He couldn't ignore the mayor of Boston, calling about a major development project that had hit regulatory hurdles. "I need to take this," William said apologetically. "It's work." "Go ahead," Sophia smiled, clearing their plates. William stepped onto her small balcony for privacy. "Mayor Castillo, thank you for calling. Yes, I understand the concerns about the Riverside project." The conversation was brief but intense, with William authorizing his team to make significant concessions to keep the project, which included a community health center, moving forward. When he returned inside, Sophia was watching him with a strange expression. "The mayor?" she asked quietly. William felt the bottom drop out of his stomach. "I can explain." You're not just some mid-level real estate developer, are you? Her voice was steady, but he could see hurt in her eyes. I looked up your name while you were talking. Wells Community Developments. You're the CEO, the founder. She stopped, shaking her head. Why didn't you tell me? I was going to, William said, knowing how inadequate it sounded. You just what? I liked being just William to you, he admitted. Not William Wells, the millionaire developer. Not William Wells who gets profiled in magazines or asked to donate to political campaigns. Just me. But that is you, Sophia said, crossing her arms protectively over her chest. You kept a huge part of your life hidden from me. Were you ever going to tell me? Or were you just enjoying slumming it with the struggling artist? That's not fair, William said, feeling desperate. I wasn't hiding who I am, I was hiding what I have. There's a difference. Is there, because it feels like you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth. What were you afraid of? That I'd be after your money? William ran a hand through his hair in frustration. No, yes, maybe, I don't know. He took a deep breath. People treat me differently when they know. They want things from me, or they're intimidated, or they act like everything I say is fascinating because of my bank account. With you, it was real. I didn't want to lose that. Sophia was quiet for a long moment. I need some time to think about this. I understand why you might have been cautious at first, but we've been seeing each other for weeks, William. That's a long time to keep something this significant from someone you're supposedly getting close to. Supposedly, the word stung. What I feel for you is real, Sophia. More real than anything I've felt in years. Her expression softened slightly, but she shook her head. Maybe, but relationships need trust. You didn't trust me with the truth. William wanted to argue to defend himself, but he knew she was right. I'm sorry, he said simply. I should have told you sooner, if I could do it over, but you can't, Sophia interrupted. Please go, I'll call you when I've had some time to process this. William left her apartment feeling like he'd destroyed something precious before it had fully formed. The next few days were torture. He threw himself into work, reviewed architectural plans until his eyes burned, and checked his phone obsessively for messages from Sophia that didn't come. On the fourth day, unable to bear the silence any longer, he went to his office's storage room and retrieved an old drafting table he'd kept from his architecture days. He spent the evening cleaning it, adjusting it, making sure it was perfect. Then he had it delivered to Sophia's apartment with a note, for your future stories which deserve to be told. I'm sorry for not trusting you with mine. When you're ready to talk, I'll be waiting. Sophia stood staring at the beautiful drafting table now taking up a significant portion of her small living room. The delivery men had just left, assuring her that everything had been paid for, including the assembly. The table was exquisite solid oak with brass fittings, adjustable to various angles, with built-in storage for art supplies. The kind of table she'd always dreamed of owning but could never afford. She read William's note again, tracing her fingers over his handwriting. Part of her wanted to be angry about the expensive gift as if he could buy forgiveness, but she recognized the thought behind it. He hadn't sent jewelry or flowers or anything purely decorative. He'd sent something that spoke to her passion, her work, her dreams. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mia. Did you talk to him yet? Sophia had spent hours discussing the situation with her best friend, who had alternated between outrage on Sophia's behalf and practical observations about William's perspective. Not yet, Sophia replied. But you're going to, right? Because the man is clearly crazy about you. I don't know, the lie feels big. Was it a lie, though, or just an omission? Did he ever claim to be broke? Sophia thought back through their conversations. William had never pretended to struggle financially. He'd simply not mentioned the extent of his success. She'd made assumptions based on his casual clothing, his unpretentious manner, his willingness to eat takeout on her worn couch. I guess it was an omission, she texted back. Look, Soph, I get why you're hurt, but think about it from his side. The guy accidentally texts a wrong number, has a great conversation with a stranger, and it turns into something more. When exactly was he supposed to drop, by the way, I'm worth hundreds of millions into the conversation without sounding like either a braggart or like he was trying to impress you? Mia had a point. Any way William approached it would have been awkward. Maybe so, Sophia conceded, but we've been dating for weeks. And he was probably getting more afraid to tell you with each passing day, knowing you'd react exactly like this. Fear makes people do stupid things, Soph. The question is, do you miss him? Sophia looked around her apartment, noticing all the small ways William had become part of her life: the mug he always used sitting in her dish rack, the book he'd recommended on her nightstand, the scarf he'd forgotten draped over her chair. Yes, she typed. I miss him. Then call him. Life's too short for pride. Sophia set her phone down and walked to the drafting table, running her hands over its smooth surface. She thought about William's words from their first date: "You're already telling your stories. Maybe you just need to believe in them more." He'd seen something in her work that she sometimes couldn't see herself. He'd encouraged her dreams without a trace of condescension. And he'd chosen her company, her tiny apartment, her budget-friendly date suggestions when he could have been anywhere with anyone. Before she could talk herself out of it, she grabbed her phone and dialed his number. William answered on the first ring. Sophia. The drafting table is beautiful, she said. Do you like it? If it's not right, I can. It's perfect, she interrupted. Too perfect, too expensive. There was silence on the other end for a moment. Is that the problem, that I can afford things you can't? No, Sophia said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. The problem is that I felt like you didn't trust me enough to know the real you. The real me is the person you've been texting and dating for weeks, William said softly. The bank accounts, the company, that's what I have, not who I am. I understand that better now, Sophia admitted. I think I overreacted. You had every right to be upset. I should have found a way to tell you sooner. The genuine regret in his voice melted the last of Sophia's resistance. Can we start over, with complete honesty this time? I'd like that, William said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. Would you have dinner with me tomorrow at my place? I want to show you my home, my life. I'd like that too. The following evening, Sophia stood outside an elegant high-rise in Boston's Back Bay, gathering her courage before entering the lobby. The doorman greeted her by name and directed her to the private elevator that would take her to the penthouse. William's home was stunning, a two-story penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the city and the Charles River. The space was beautifully designed but surprisingly warm, with comfortable furniture, well-stocked bookshelves, and carefully chosen art on the walls. William greeted her with a tentative smile as if unsure of his welcome. What do you think? He asked, gesturing around. It's beautiful, Sophia said honestly, but not as intimidating as I imagined. Relief crossed his face. I wanted you to see where I live, how I live, no more secrets. He gave her a tour, showing her his home office with architectural models of his projects, his kitchen where he admitted he rarely cooked, and finally, a room that made her catch her breath, a small studio space with perfect natural light, art supplies, and walls lined with children's book illustrations by artists Sophia admired. What is this? She asked, turning to him in wonder. I've been collecting children's book art for years, William explained. It reminds me of simpler times, and lately, it reminds me of you. The honesty in his eyes moved her deeply. Thank you for showing me this. Over dinner, which William had catered from their favorite Italian restaurant, they talked openly about the disparity in their financial situations, their fears, and their feelings for each other. I've never felt this way about anyone, William confessed as they sat on his terrace with glasses of wine, the city lights twinkling below them. When I'm with you, none of the rest of it matters, not the money, not the status, not the expectations, just us. Sophia reached for his hand. I feel the same way, and I'm sorry I doubted what we have because of your bank account. We both made mistakes, William said, bringing her hand to his lips. The question is, where do we go from here? Forward, Sophia said simply, together. 6 months later, Sophia stood nervously in a small gallery space in downtown Boston, surrounded by her artwork. After their reconciliation, William had encouraged her to pursue her dream of writing and illustrating her own children's book. He'd connected her with a publisher friend, being careful to make it clear that, while he could make an introduction, Sophia's work would have to stand on its own merits. It had. Her story about a rabbit artist who helps forest animals see the beauty in their ordinary lives had been accepted for publication, and tonight was the gallery opening showcasing the original illustrations. "Nervous?" William asked, appearing at her side with two champagne flutes. "Terrified," Sophia admitted, taking a sip for courage. "What if no one comes? What if they hate it? First, the gallery is already filling up," William pointed out, "and second, they won't hate it because it's wonderful just like its creator." He was right about the crowd. Within an hour, the gallery was packed with art enthusiasts, children's literature fans, and of course, their friends and family. Sophia moved from group to group, explaining her creative process, accepting compliments, and trying not to panic when a prominent art critic spent 20 minutes examining her work. What made her heart truly full, though, was watching William. He stayed in the background, letting this be her moment, but his pride was evident in every glance he sent her way. When the gallery owner announced that half the illustrations had already sold, William's smile was as bright as her own. Later that night, after the last guest had departed and they were helping the gallery staff clean up, William led Sophia to a quiet corner. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Sophia's heart skipped. "William." "It's not what you think," he assured her quickly, though his eyes held a promise for the future. "Open it." Inside was a delicate silver key. "What's this?" "The key to your new studio," William said. "I bought the building next to my office. The top floor has perfect light for painting. It's yours if you want it." Tears filled Sophia's eyes. "That's too much." "It's not," William insisted. "It's an investment in your talent, in our future, and before you worry, it's a legitimate business arrangement. The studio is yours, but you'll be renting it from me at a fair market price." "At a fair market price?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. William had the grace to look sheepish. "Well, maybe slightly below market, but the point is, I believe in you, Sophia. I believe in your stories, your art, your vision. I want to support that without taking away your independence." Sophia looked at the key in her palm, then back at William, this man who had accidentally texted her months ago and somehow become the most important person in her life. "I love you," she said, the words coming easily now after months of saying them. "I love you too," William replied, pulling her close. "Wrong number and all." 1 year to the day after Sophia received that first accidental text message, William proposed on the terrace of his penthouse, the city lights spread below them like stars. 6 months after that, they were married in a ceremony that combined elegance with warmth, much like the home they now shared. Sophia's book became a critical and commercial success, the first in what would become a beloved series. William's company continued to thrive, with a renewed focus on community spaces for arts and education inspired, he often said, by a certain illustrator's influence. On their first anniversary, as they sat in their living room surrounded by sketches for Sophia's next book and plans for William's newest development, he handed her a framed text message, the very first one she'd sent to his wrong number. "Best mistake I ever made," he said, kissing her softly. "I don't know," Sophia teased. "I'm pretty fond of that terrible pottery we made on our third date." William laughed, pulling her into his arms, "to beautiful mistakes and the courage to make them right." Sophia rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. From a wrong number to a lifetime together, it wasn't the story she'd expected to illustrate with her life, but it was better than anything she could have drawn herself.